In the first chapter of part 2 of Grammatology, Derrida examines the connection between writing and violence through a critique of Levi-Strauss's anthropology, especially the chapter A Writing Lesson in Tristus Tropicus. Derrida argues that Levi-Strauss's view that non-literate societies are naturally innocent and peaceful only corrupted by Western writing. Derrida calls this attitude sentimental ethnocentrism. Violence is not something that comes from outside to a pure oral language, rather, it is part of language itself, which is always already a form of writing, what Derrida calls archaic writing. Derrida begins by analyzing Levi-Strauss's account of the Nambikawara, a tribe described as having no concept of writing and living in a state of archaic innocence. Levi-Strauss recounts how the tribal chief, observing the anthropologist taking notes, started drawing wavy lines on paper. The anthropologist interprets this not as intellectual creativity but as a social tool for the chief to strengthen his authority. Derrida critiques this reading, noting that it depends on a rigid distinction between speech, seen as immediate and true, and writing, seen as artificial and controlling. This distinction is metaphysical and misleading. A key part of Derrida's analysis focuses on proper names. Levi-Strauss notes that the Nambikawara are forbidden from using proper names publicly. They are treated as secret and sacred. Derrida points out that giving a proper name already involves placing it within a system of classification and difference. Names are not purely personal, they exist within language which precedes and structures the individual. In this sense, naming is already a form of writing, and the violence that Levi-Strauss associates with the introduction of the alphabet is only an additional layer on a violence that exists within all structured language. Language itself is already structured, organized in this originary sense. Derrida also challenges Levi-Strauss's historical claim that writing primarily serves to control people or consolidate political power. Levi-Strauss suggests that writing's main function is to facilitate domination. Derrida counters that this logic is flawed. Literacy could just be as well a tool of freedom and empowerment. Levi-Strauss is caught in a metaphysics of presence, seeking an original, immediate, and pure language that never actually existed. There is no people without writing because all human language relies on reference, spacing, and the trace which makes communication and meaning possible. Derrida shows that the supposed hierarchy between speech and writing is a violent hierarchy created to maintain the myth of oral innocence. Speech is elevated as natural and authentic, while writing is marginalized as artificial and corrupting. Derrida dismantles this hierarchy, arguing that writing is not a trap that deforms speech, but the very condition that allows human culture, language, and thought to exist. Archaic writing, the underlying structure of all language, is present in both oral and written forms, making it impossible to separate pure speech from writing. By exposing the assumptions in Levi-Strauss's work, Derrida reinforces his larger philosophical goal, the deconstruction of logocentrism. The idea that speech is primary and writing secondary, he demonstrates violence is inherent in language itself and that writing is fundamental component of all human communication, not an external corruption. Writing is the foundation of culture, thought, and meaning, and any attempt to view speech as innocent and writing as dangerous is based on a mistaken and romanticized view of history.